the right to protect the health and well-being of every person, of those we love, is a basic human right. Over the course of the last 11 years, we've made it possible to run comprehensive laboratory tests from a few drops of blood that could be taken from a finger. And we've made it possible to eliminate the tubes and tubes of blood that traditionally have to be drawn from an arm and replaced it with the nanotainer.
Let's talk about this. So, 38-year-old Elizabeth Holmes, founder of Theranos, a now defunct bullshit scamming operation based out of Silicon Valley in Cali. She has been sentenced to 11 years and 3 months in prison for fraud, wire fraud, just fraud, to the tune of $144 million. But she was able to raise $10 billion, $10 billion from investors, most of them just pointing it out there, older white men. But a lot of investors did stay away from her because she never had any proof of all of this. But somehow this scammer, college dropout, because some men found her attractive and, you know, she had that fake deep, she had a fake deep voice because she thought that it would get her more respect. She started dressing like Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. Just an overall fraud and scammer. Take a time out, like the video, subscribe. In the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to go deep down the rabbit hole. Thanks for watching.
Disgraced Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes was sentenced to 135 months in prison for defrauding investors in her blood testing company. ABC 7 News reporter Stephanie Sierra has been following the trial. She was in court today and is live in San Jose with the latest. Steph?
Yes, Jan. Well, Elizabeth Holmes' sentence is symbolic on many fronts, but certainly for Silicon Valley. This is a woman who went from being a rising star pegged to transform the future of healthcare to now a convicted criminal. And the judge was very clear today that this 11-plus year sentence is not only fair, but the price to pay for the lies and deception. Convicted Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes left federal court knowing she's been sentenced to more than 11 years behind bars for defrauding investors of her blood testing startup.
You just came out that door right there.
The soon-to-be mom of two was seen rushing past bystanders.
She and Billy came out that door, and he had her by the hand, and they came out, and she turned around briefly, and then they ran across the street. It was fast.
Holmes faced up to 20 years in prison. Federal prosecutors wanted 15 years. The probation department recommended 9 years. Was justice served?
I think it's a very tough case, and yeah, she got what she deserved, I think. I do.
The sentence seems long. I think coming into it, I thought it would be more like 5 to 7. It seems harsh.
Judge Edward Davila says he thought long and hard about his decision, taking into account both sides, everything from the more than 130 letters sent in to support Holmes to her own gross misrepresentation and lies that spanned 5 years. Courtroom sketches show Holmes took the stand in tears, saying she takes full responsibility for the company's failures, and for years she's been in deep pain for what she did.
Now let's talk about this. This is a healthcare machine. She was promising to revolutionize the game. So imagine you got to get some blood work done. Me, I'm a caregiver. So when I have to take my father to the LabCorp or Quest Diagnostic, and those are pretty much the two biggest companies in our country and in the United States. And Theranos was supposed to be their competition, but much cheaper. So imagine all you have to do is, go to a Walgreens, because these machines at one point in time were in Walgreens. Go to Walgreens, give a drop of blood, and then boom, you're out of there. They put it into this machine, And then from my understanding, instantaneously, it's able to, tell you everything that's wrong. Your results right there, quicker, faster, cheaper. One drop of blood, nanotainer. But what things got dicey is the results weren't accurate and misdiagnosing people or not finding things, and you're messing with people's health care. So I think she should do that whole 11 years. But you know how rich people are. And even though, she should be dirt broke, but when people defraud people, they never lose all of their money. It's never going to be a time where somebody in her or her family, whenever she gets out, they're going to be able to swipe a card. It's not going to be no money there. They're going to be living in a trailer park. No. And what really, really grinds my gears is how she tried to throw everything at this case to try to either, mistrial or try to get sympathy from the judges, like getting pregnant twice, knowing she was facing all this time. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper. Let me finish playing the rest of this news clip here, and thanks for watching.
In my mind, it was notable. Her says the words that you'd really want if I were the judge, where it's like, I'm sorry I lied.
Alex Schultz, the son of Theranos investor and former U.S. Secretary of State George Schultz, looked at Holmes as he explained how her lies desecrated his family, adding the private investigator she hired led his son to sleep with a knife under his pillow.
That makes you feel so sad for them and sorry for them, but it was good to hear, at least verbally, another side and how their family was really, really hurt.
The judge made it clear this 11-year sentence is sending a message to Silicon Valley. Strong salesmanship cannot merge into misrepresentation.
Yeah, she got what she deserved, I think. I do. You better be careful from now on.
Certainly a climactic end to a years-long saga. The judge posing this question in conclusion to the court. So what was it? What caused all of this? Was it intoxication with the fame? We know the misrepresentations, and there were many. Is it refusing to accept the reality? And we do know the reality for Silicon Valley now is that misrepresentation in any form will not be tolerated, as we saw with this strict sentence.
So let me go through my facts here. So her trial finished in January of 2022. She was sentenced on November, what date was that? Was it the 19th? What was Friday? The 18th, November the 18th, 2022 to 11 years, 135 months, 11 years, 3 months. Theranos at its height had 800 or so employees back in 2014. With 10 billion or so raised. This box right here was called the Edison. You would take a little pill shaped capsule, put a drop of blood in it, put that, it was called the nanotainer, put that into a holder, put that, like basically inside of a cartridge. You would take that nanotainer that holds the drop of blood, put that in type of a cartridge, put the cartridge inside of the Theranos machine, and you would get instantaneous blood testing results. She was working on getting a military contract. Can you believe this? Excuse my language. Can you believe this, bitch? She was working on getting a military contract, and these machines were rolling out into Walgreens, and it never worked from the beginning. So users started asking questions like, okay, well, wait a minute. The testing was coming back bad. So what they did was, they started giving out regular needles. And it's like, just started doing regular blood work, like Quest or LabCorp or Quest Diagnostics, but just under the name of Theranos, because the machine, this big fucking Xbox One looking, it never worked. Then she was trying to work on a patch to detect information before. So basically, you would put a patch on your arm, and it would basically be able to administer antibiotics, but also be tapped into your bloodstream or DNA. So therefore, it would be able to, catch potential illnesses before. But if you were already sick, the patch would be able to administer antibiotics. And antibiotics aren't potent enough. And I got this from the HBO documentary, aren't potent enough to be in that such of a little dosage, to be put in a patch to where any little disease or illness that pops up, that little teeny tiny patch on your arm, would be able to say, oh, okay, you got a cold, so let me give you a little bit of this. Or you got a headache, let me get, no. She was working on government contracts. It just gets nuts.
Which are designed to replace the big traditional tubes that come from your arm and instead allow for all the testing to be done from a tiny drop from a finger.
Theranos has struck a partnership with drugstore chain Walgreens to build thousands of wellness centers, like this one in Palo Alto. Every center would offer a menu of blood tests, ranging from cancer to cholesterol, directly to consumers. And every test, Holmes says, would cost only a fraction of Medicare prices.
It sounds genius.
Look at this. Look at that big price discrepancy. And she didn't think that people were going to be asking questions? Like, what was she thinking? But that's scammers, man. And the scam is only going to get worse. Wait till the end of the video.
What about those who say that's not enough blood to do all the tests that need to be done, especially if someone's very sick and you're trying to figure out what it is?
Every time you create something new, there should be questions. And to me, that's a sign that you've actually done something that is transformative.
When will I have that opportunity in Washington or New York to go use a small test like that and find out data for myself?
Working on it as fast as we can. I can tell you our next states are underway.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Little is known about how Theranos tests work, which has raised concerns about putting diagnostic results in patients' hands without doctors present.
How is it that a company that is doing pinprick finger testing valued at nearly $10 billion?
Well, it's a really important area. When people get a lab test done, traditionally, in order for that lab test to be paid for, you have to have a symptom, so the doctor can write in a code on the lab form. But if you can drop the pricing really low, then all of a sudden preventative testing can start to become possible.
But I want to press you on this because I think the world is very excited. You've been on the cover of magazines. You could transform healthcare not only here in America but around the world with this. But where is the revolution?
Well, it's in, first of all, making it possible to do tests on tiny samples. Any cancer patient, any child, any elderly person whose veins collapse will tell you not having to have their blood drawn that way is a big deal.
For as much promise as those tiny samples hold, Holmes is already known as a very real and rare example of what perseverance makes possible.
And when I take my father to get his blood work, sometimes they have to stick him multiple times. Now, he don't be really caring about it, but sometimes they have to stick him multiple times, or, because of his condition, sometimes it's hard to draw blood. So I just be thinking like, it is revolutionary, but we're just not there yet. Maybe sometime in 20, 30, 40 years, they're going to look back and, wow, Elizabeth Holmes was really onto something. But as it stands here today, she's a thief, a liar, and a scammer. She's got to go. So I just want to point out some of the, to close out the video, some of the disgusting behaviors of this woman and how basically she was using women, as basically like her springboard to be like, look, they're holding me back because I'm a woman. And, a lot of women, from my understanding, that were, potential investors, they was like, nah, something ain't right here. And it seems like mostly a lot of her enemies were women. Because, the women investors were saying, like, how is she able to come in, get all this funding, and yet she ain't showing nothing from, excuse, my terminology, but these older white men, they must like her, find her attractive, and she's, able just to get these fundings. Even her boyfriend, former boyfriend, who's also facing 20 years, he's set to be sentenced sometime soon, Sonny Belwani. We're going to talk about him in a minute. Even he was like an older guy that, she tried to throw under the bus. But listen to this right here. Listen to this.
It was possible to do. How old were you? 9?
I was 9.
Who says that when they're 9 years old?
I grew up in a family of people who wanted to make a difference in the world.
And Holmes hasn't wasted any time. Last week, she became the youngest member ever named to the prestigious Horatio Alger Association, which recognizes grit and drive.
You were the only woman up there with a lot of older white men.
This is true. Yeah, I was. But what was so wonderful about it is that these young girls who are in the audience
Good morning, my name is Crystal Marichak.
could connect to me as nothing but living proof that their dreams are possible.
Whenever there's a quote-unquote glass ceiling, there's an iron woman right behind it.
And that's why many of the students there were really
Boy, but this one even gets crazier. Now, she tried to avoid, I'm guessing she was trying to go for the sympathy of the judge or, the judges, because I can't wrap my head around. She has an 18-month-old baby now, as I'm recording this video. And then from my understanding, she's about 3 to 4 months pregnant now. Now, she knew she was facing all of this time. And the number one thing that comes to my mind, and I'm pretty sure probably others as well, is why would you have a baby right now? Like, why in your right mind would you have a baby? Like, or even get pregnant? What happened to the birth control when you know that you're facing jail? So to me, it looks like she was trying to play on the courts and maybe the judge's emotions. Like, look, I'm pregnant. I got another one. You can't take me away from, like my child. But the problem is she's a scammer. So it makes me think like you did that on purpose. Come on, man. But let me let you listen to it. This was from a new episode of 60 Minutes Australia. They've been following the story. I actually did my first video well over 2 years ago on this, around the time that that HBO documentary came out.
Watching on in court day by day was retired biotech executive Anne Kopf-Sill, who dismisses much of what Holmes had to say in her defence as a cynical and desperate attempt to stay out of jail, including revealing she had been raped as a student, plus the allegation she was coercively controlled by her former partner and COO of Theranos, Sunny Balwani.
I think the domestic abuse and the allegation that she said she was raped at Stanford definitely gets sympathy. But, once you think that someone has committed fraud and is capable of really just straight out lying to people, it makes you suspicious of all the other angles in order to get a benefit, like a lighter sentence.
Any comment at all to the investors?
Most also view the need the Holmes camp had to reveal to the court that Elizabeth recently found her adored pet dog dead as a desperate grab for sympathy. Raising greater ire is the timing of Elizabeth's second pregnancy, first noticed just a month ago.
Any comments, Elizabeth?
In an 11th hour plea for leniency, the judge was sent photos on Friday of Holmes as a new mum to her firstborn.
She became pregnant with the first child right.
The nerve of this woman. Like, y'all think she killed the dog? The nerve of this woman. See, that's what a scammer, you can't put nothing past them. And it's not like she kept lying and lying and lying for years. Look, her voice was fake. Her persona was fake. Like, come on, man. She faked to everybody, raised $10 billion of fakery. And you're sending pictures of your child to the judge? Like, what?
The judge was sent photos on Friday of Holmes as a new mum to her firstborn.
She became pregnant with the first child right before she went to trial. Now she's pregnant with a second child right before sentencing. That cannot be a ploy to get lighter sentences. And I mean, it's sad about her dog, but that seems unrelated to the fraud and people paying a debt to society.
Elizabeth Holmes will be free until late April next year, when she has to surrender herself to jail. It's expected she will appeal. Even so, Holmes' conviction and now her pending incarceration has given whistleblowers like Dr. Adam Rosendorf a new sense of freedom.
Oh boy, I don't like this guy right here. He almost screwed it all. This, look at my notes here. This Adam Rosendorf, former lab director of Theranos, he almost caused a mistrial. And, you know, he came off really bad in this interview with 60 Minutes because it's like, you fucking doofus. Excuse my language. Listen to this right here. Let me see if I can go get the clip for you. Listen to this shit.
$1 million. Dr. Adam Rosendorf testified. It's a sentence that brings no regrets for Dr. Adam Rosendorf, the former lab director and whistleblower whose testimony helped put Elizabeth behind bars.
I don't have empathy for Elizabeth at all. I think she's the only person who can help herself. I don't think even after she serves her sentence necessarily that there will be any great epiphany for her.
Dr. Rosendorf may have no empathy for Elizabeth Holmes, but his empathy for her 18-month-old son very nearly handed Holmes a get-out-of-jail card. After 6 days on the stand and after intense cross-examination, Adam made the bewildering decision in August to approach Elizabeth Holmes, a decision that could have led to a mistrial. Can you explain what happened? Why did you end up going to Elizabeth Holmes's house? What was the point of that?
I was feeling a lot of guilt, basically, at the prospect of her young child growing up without a mom.
What was your intention?
Merely to have her acknowledge what had happened in some way and her role in it. To express sympathy towards her for the fact that her young kid would grow up alone, basically, for a big chunk of their lives.
Did you at any point think or understand the risk of what you were doing, that this could upend everything?
No, I wasn't really thinking about that. I wasn't. I was just wanting to talk to her as a human being, so.
And so now that you do know, how do you view what you did?
Ill-advised.
Guy's an idiot. You know, in my opinion, he should be looked into as well, because, like, why would you do that? You know, like, you're testifying against her and then you go see her? Like, what kind of idiot move is that? You know, come on, man. You know, I'm not trying to hear that. But, you know, it's unfortunate for her children, but she did it to herself. And she decided when her children become adults, they're going to be like, well, why? You know, I mean, obviously they're going to be happy to be alive. I guess I got to be careful what I say. But basically, you know, they should understand, like, oh, so you had us, you know, thinking, you know, that the judge may give you some type of sympathy. And she was facing, what, 15 years? But she got 11. That's pretty much on the high end of things. You can follow me on Twitter at TstreeT Controversy. I like doing these videos, even though we do cover boxing as well. I know a lot of people have been getting pissed at me, like, why are you covering boxing? You know, but personally, let me play this last clip right here from this NBC Bay Area report after she was found guilty. And I don't see her doing those 11 years, you know, but she's got to do like at least 3 to 5. Come on, man. Like, you can't just go around doing stuff like this and think you're going to get away with it. Especially, you know, I haven't had a chance to really research, you know, if anyone got hurt from this or, you know, from these faulty lab results. The thing never worked. And you can watch the HBO documentary. I forgot the doggone thing name. Inventor, Out for Blood in Silicon Valley. It's very, very interesting. And I forgot how I watched it, but it was kind of basically by accident. But you're going to find out everything you need to know. But let's play this clip.
Dropping out of Stanford to start a company, it's very audacious. Getting all this investor money, it all comes together. Also, let's face it, people like to sometimes see someone taken down a peg or two, as she and Theranos were. So this case had it all. But yeah, I think a lot of people did feel betrayed because this is, for a while, what Silicon Valley gave its attention to. And unlike many of the other companies and inventions and innovations, this one didn't pan out.
Yeah. We heard a lot about her pregnancy, people saying whatever about it. You know, did she do it on purpose? Did she try to get sympathy? Whatever. We know that the judge said you can stay seated if you want because you're pregnant. Did it play in any other way, you think?
As far as the decision, I don't think so, except I'm guessing that her surrender date will be into next year so that she can have the child and spend some time with it. But an 11.25-year sentence when you have an infant And what will be a one or 2 year old is very significant to any parent. And so you've got to think that that didn't come into play all that much. It was less than what the prosecution wanted. They asked for 15 years, but it was much more than what her side asked for.
And it was more than what the probation board recommended. What did the judge say about that?
It's a very good point. He said he took that 9 years into account. And as a matter of fact, fairly early in what he was saying, he said, I always take very seriously what the probation board says. So a lot of us were sitting, whoa, is this going to be a 9-year sentence? And that's what made the end a little more surprising, is that even after taking the 9-year recommendation into account and saying how much faith he put into that, he added more than 2 years to the sentence.
So 11 years and 3 months at a later date. We're going to find out today what that surrender date is?
Yeah, I think it's mid-year. I can check right now. Everything's been tweeting back and forth. I just ran downstairs to talk to you. But yes, I do know it's months into the future. April, thank you. It's April 27. And so thank you. We do know it's April 27. So if you do the math, that gives some time, not a whole lot of time. I mean, we've had children, but it gives some time. And then from there, it's obviously going to be tough.
It is more time.
So that's 5 months from now. She must be further along than what? Yeah, basically, yeah, pretty much. So it's like you got pregnant after you got found not guilty. No. And maybe the judge probably felt like the same way I'm kind of feeling and others are feeling, like she had this baby to try to mess with me, to try to play on my emotions. Nah. Now you're getting 11 years, But did she want 3 years supervised release, or did they offer her, or is she going to do 11 years and then 3 years supervised release? I don't remember. But either way, let's see what happens with Sunny Balwani, who she tried to make it seem like, and once again, she's a scammer. So everything comes in, to question, even if, it may be true. But she tried to make it seem like he was the one pulling the strings and she just was the face. I don't believe anything she's saying anymore. Once you do a scam like that, or just be a scammer overall, I have no type of faith. I don't want to believe in you. Thanks for watching. I'm TstreeT Controversy. Please subscribe.